Hello listeners, welcome back to the series of Western political thought. In the last module, we discussed about Plato's theory of justice and Plato's theory of education. Today, we are going to start with Plato's theory of communism. I am Ranjit Kaur, Assistant Professor Political Science from the Department of Public Ad and Political Science at the Bhopal School of Social Sciences. So let us start today. Today, we are going to discuss about Platonic's conception of communism, types of communism given by Plato, the difference between Karl Marx and Plato's concept of communism, features of Platonic communism, basis of communism, communism of property, and the Aristotle's criticism of Platonic communism. Plato wanted to build up an ideal state which displays justice. So in order to display justice in an ideal state, Plato has propounded two systems. First was the system of state control education, which we did in the last module, and second was the new social order, which is based on communism. The existence of three classes, as Plato says, which was the philosophers, soldiers, and the producing class, the farmers, which represents three major elements of human soul, that was spirit, appetite, and reason, and they can display justice if they can work in harmony as well as non-interfering in each other's activity. Now, what important thing Plato wanted was the environment should be according to the work. So, work condition should be according to the environment. He assigned the idea of ideal state and he proposed the concept of justice. Perfect guardians should rule well. Auxiliaries should fight enemies and protect the state. And the farmers should keep the manifestation of appetite. So, in order to display their duties, what is most important is the environment. The concept of communism was not an original genesis. It was observed in Sparta, Crete, and Athens. Communism was primarily famous in Athens, where people believed in the state of nature, a state with no defined laws. Even Pythagoreans believe friends' goods were common goods. So, even in Athens, there was a state control system of property. The property was totally under the control of the state. In Athens, the state exercised control on the private property, while in Sparta, there existed a system of private property where the acquired property belongs to everyone, that means commonly shared by all. According to Foster, the Plato's guardian, the guardian class means the upper two classes, they will not only hold private property, but they will just use private property for a common purpose. Plato believed in harmony of thoughts, ideas, belief attached with the foundation of society. And that is what he created the theory of communism. To sum up, we can say that the aim of Plato's theory of communism was good education, which will train military as well as the warrior class to maintain coherence and unity in the state amidst a favorable environment. And this is where environment, where there is no feeling of mine and thine. Everything is being renounced in common. The major obstacle to create an ideal state was if an individual has an inclination towards property and family. So practically he has proposed two types of communism, which is one was based on property, another was on family. Pursuing his personal interest, then he is not fulfilling the duties towards the state. So in order to be unbiased, person does not hold property. That is what Plato believes. Talking about types of communism, Plato has classified communism into two types: communism of property and communism of family or women, where he believes that there should be no private property or private family, and that is the life of the guardian class. If we look at the difference between the modern communism and the Platonic communism, the Plato's idea of communism was an end result. He wanted to make an ideal state where the justice could prevail, whereas Karl Marx does not believe in this concept of justice. He wanted to make a state with a class-less society. He was not talking about justice. Secondly, Platonic communism is the contrast to Marx communism, which aspire to create a classless and a stateless society. He does not want that the society should be divided into two, that is haves and have-nots. Haves, those who possess economic power, those who possess property, whereas have-nots, the class, the proletariats, which do not have economy or money in their hands. So what Karl Marx believed was the owners of the property exploits the working class, and that was his economic determination. Karl Marx viewed state as an instrument of dominance in the hands of ruling class. He believes those who have economic power, they also exercise control over the political power. So Plato wanted in a different manner. Plato's theory of communism is along with the education. He says it's a tool to construct a well-ordered state by perpetuating class division and dominance. He also divided the class, but the class was divided into guardian class as well as the working class. The guardian class itself talks about the ruling class and the warrior class, and these two upper classes will remain immune from the attraction of property and family. Marx believed that family was a mere money collection. Plato aimed liberating the ruling class from family and property whose influence would corrupt the powerful. So those who have political powers, they can become corrupted when they have property also with them. Let us have a look at the features of Platonic communism. It was not meant for all classes. It was meant only for the guardian class, and when I say guardian class, that means I'm talking about the rulers and the warriors. So it was just for the upper two classes. Its objective was solely political, not economical. He wanted to create philosophers in the lines where they are doing justice to the society, where they are not corrupted, unbiased in dealing with the rules and regulations of the state. So that is why his objective was political, not economical. It strived not to eliminate economic disparity, but liberate politics in government. Not a way of enjoyment, but a way of sacrifice. It inspires the guardian class to stay engaged in public affairs. The guardian class can display justice and can display their wisdom, reasons only when they are being devoid of property. With property, they will become self-centered, and then they will not be able to display wisdom. It means to fetch unity in the ideal state. Whatever Plato has suggested was to create unity. If you have private property, it inculcates the feeling of mine and thine. That is what Plato did not want it. He believed when you have your own property, that you have your own family, it's all measures of your own pleasure and pains. You cannot feel pleasures and pains of the public altogether. So that's the reason where you should devoid the property and family so that you can feel their pleasures and pains. Equal for both men and women. Men and women of the guardian class, they will live in the similar conditions, since Plato was considered to be first feminist and he believed that more than 50% of the population is of women, and when they confined to the four walls of their houses, they will not be able to display their talents, and the women are equally talented if they are being trained properly. And that is why he believed that both men and women will be living in open barracks which are being controlled by state. They will be dying together and sharing common tables, but they will not be leading a private family life. Here Sabine quotes, "So firmly was Plato convinced of the pernicious effect of wealth upon government that he saw no way to abolish the evil except by abolishing wealth itself, so far as the soldiers and rulers are concerned." So he considered that property is an evil, so it's better to remove property altogether. Basis of Platonic communism. First one, psychological base. What does Plato says? If guardian class is kept away from private ownership, they will be in a position to fulfill duties towards the state intellectually, and they can display their talents. People have a mindset to acquire property, and people are not satisfied with whatever they have. They want more and more in life, and that's the human psychology. And that is which drift them from their duties. So they can perform their duty when they are away from such kind of attraction. Second one is political base. What Plato has observed in Athens was the elite class who was the ruling class, and their main concentration was economy, making property. And if people have political and economic power together, definitely there are chances that they become corrupt. And that was the reason where he wanted to separate political as well as economic power together. Philosophical base, only meant for two upper classes, not for the third class. The third class, which is the producing class, they manifest appetite and they cannot work without money. Definitely for them, money is important because they are the producers. So it's not meant for the appetite class or for the third class, that's the producing class. It is meant only for the two upper classes. Behavioral base. Government could be run by people who are intelligent and multi-talented. That is what government needs, multi-talented people. If the guardian class is considered, then the basis of their selection will be property, not talent and intellectual capacity. So the people, only the money, the people who holds money, who holds economic power will be forming the government, not those who have talent or who have intellectual capacity. So on these bases, Plato clarifies that the communism of property is essential for the upper two classes. Talking about communism of property, Plato deducted two problems. What were they? When the economic and the political powers get unified, number one, the holder of political powers become greedy and uses his position to amass wealth, and they ignore the path of wisdom. So the main concentration is how to create or generate more money rather than what public needs, what public demands. Secondly, revolt has been carried out by the masses as a result of misappropriation and forceful possession. So people are unhappy, they start revolting against the government because the people, those who are in power, they have occupied the position because of their wealth, not because of their talent. Barker quotes here, "It is from this practical consideration that Plato starts, and in this sense his communism, idealistic as it seems, is the most practical feature of his ideal state." And because of this reason, he believed that the intelligence or the intellectual people should come forward, not the people, those who hold property. Plato's suggestion was that those who exercise political power should have no economic motives. They should apart from the economic motives, and those who are engaged in economic activities should not share any political power with them. Coming to the criticism, his own disciple Aristotle has criticized Plato's concept of communism. What does he say? Aristotle says that in every human being there is a natural instinct of acquisition of ownership, whereas Plato deprives the guardian from any kind of property. People work. Why do they work? Because they want to acquire property. They want to acquire wealth, and whereas Plato has devoid them from this only. Secondly, Plato says that instead of creating unity, Plato divides the state into two communities. Plato wanted to create a unity in an ideal state, whereas he has divided the people into two different classes, the ones, those who have property, and the others, those who do not have. Naturally, the ones, those who do not have, would be jealous of those who have property. Plato destroyed the institution of private property, which will further demolish the sentiments of charity and benevolence. Aristotle feels that if the rulers do not have money with them, they will not be able to do charity. If you have money in your pockets, you can think of helping and assisting others. If you do not have, how do you show benevolence? So that's the reason where the rulers are more inferior than the beggars. It leads to totalitarianism, sacrificing liberty and equality, subordinating individuals to the interest of state. Those people who are working for the interest of the state, those who are giving their lives for the state, are being devoid of any kind of pleasure, nor even property and nor family. So how they are going to lead their life without these two important motives of life? So that was how Aristotle criticized Plato. In the nutshell, we can say that Plato wanted to create an ideal state where the justice could be displayed, and the justice in the ideal state could be displayed only by the two upper classes, the guardian class, and these class are being devoided of property as well as the family, so that they can live together in common. They renounce the property in common. There are properties, but those properties are controlled by state, but they are going to use it in common. That is what he believed, and he wanted to end the feeling of mine and thine, and wants to create a just state, an ideal state. I hope the communism of property is clear to you. We will meet again in the next module with the philosopher king. Till then, goodbye.